You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 187. Today I speak with devoted family man, sought after speaker, podcaster, philanthropist, and founder of Iron Deep, a unique men's community focusing on purpose in Christ, Brett Snodgrass, on Christian Brotherhood, a necessary ministry. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Faith Breathed Hope. I'm excited that you are here, and I'm excited about my guest, Brett. Hey, Brett, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Christina. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to talk about the discussion that we have. It's a little bit different. I usually talk to women, but this is going to be a little bit more geared, well, definitely geared towards the men in your lives. So if you want to go ahead and grab your man or send this over to him, then we would love that. But first, Brett, I want you to share with the audience something interesting in your life that maybe not everybody in your circle knows.
Interesting. Now, it's funny because one of our questions, we had our Iron Core group of men this morning, and one of the questions was, hey, do you have a party trick or do you have something that unusual that you like to do? And mine actually was, I used to do a lot of karaoke. And if you want me to break out, I did Total Eclipse of the Heart was a song of mine, or Faith by George Michael. That was one of my favorites that I would go to, or Sister Christian by Night Ranger. So, I'm a karaoke guy. So there's something interesting.
Oh, fun. I think I've done it once or twice a long
Yeah.
time ago, but it was a lot of fun. So, um, today, though, we're going to be talking about the brotherhood of Christian men in ministry. And, as a Christian woman, I understand the importance of being able to bond with other Christian women. It is important that you not only have your family, but you have these other people who are longing for what God has for them, and, staying in the word and seeking his face to help come into your life, because we have so many things that happen in life, and you don't know when you're going to need somebody to remind you of scripture, even if you've read it. I have had these instances happen in my own life. But we think of men, or at least sometimes the perspective is that we think of men as being strong and stand alone, being able to handle anything that comes to them. Maybe some men more so than others. They give off that vibe of, hey, I can handle anything. I'm a superhero. The kids look up to them, and say, Daddy's the superhero. But in reality, they need one another too. And there's a Christian brotherhood bonding time. And you referred to it earlier when we were speaking of iron sharpens iron. Can we talk about the need for that in this area of just the male brotherhood and being able to get stronger in friendship and their love for the Lord and how they lead? So
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on. Thanks for just discussing this topic. I mean, this is my heart just has been going out into this for a couple of years now. And just a little bit of my background. I've been a business owner for about 17 years in the real estate world, flipped a lot of homes, been around a lot of men that own businesses, that have some sort of success, that live in certain comfortable lives, and publicly have success, and people look up to these guys and think that, hey, these guys have it all. They could do what they want to do, and they have freedom, and they can go on certain vacations, and they live in a decent home, and all these different things. And but what I also discovered with my own life, or with some of these other guys, is privately they are struggling and that they can't really talk about it. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, The Secret War Within, because men hold these secrets that they can't let out. That again, they have to have their mask on, they have to have it all together all the time. They can't talk to their employees about it, they can't talk to their family about it. And they have some of this darkness that they can't talk about it. And a lot of guilt and shame can be shrouded with this. So that's why we kind of started the Iron Deep, which is really a brotherhood of male entrepreneurs to get together, to build that brotherhood, to be able to be honest. That's one of our core values, is to be radically honest. That's just to come as you are. You don't have to have it all together. We're not going to judge you. We're going to love you no matter what. And it's just so important. And I think that at first this was an experiment because you don't know how all this is going to go. You don't know how men are going to perceive, and they might look at it as, I don't want to talk about those certain things. I don't need that in my life. Most groups of men, if you think of groups and tribes of men, are surrounded around business, maybe. Okay, you got business stuff that they can talk about. Maybe they root for the same sports team, right? You got that going on. Uh, but there's the deeper topics that they don't know if they want to talk about. So you're like, oh, I'm going to do this experiment. Are men really going to be gravitate towards this? Are they interested in this? And we just started experimenting with it, and men are craving it. Men crave relationships. They just don't know maybe how to find it. They're afraid to kind of to go there, to go deeper with other guys. And that's really what Iron Deep's about. It's about sharpening each other in life and in families and in business. And it's about going deep with God. It's about going deep with each other. And it's just kind of breaking through the surface of everything, getting beyond money, getting beyond sports, to talk about something real, to be on mission together. And we started it, and I just think men are craving it. And we feel isolated and we feel lonely. I mean, the loneliness is an epidemic around, and men are feeling it and they don't know what to do about it. And so that's where it all started. And yeah, we launched it about a year ago.
So how long, when men decide to join these types of groups, does it take for them to kind of relax? Is it a group of guys? Like, do you suggest a group of guys that already know each other, or is this something that somebody can join and start feeling comfortable? I assume there's like a barrier to entry kind of a thing where you sit there and you don't feel like you can divulge anything quite yet.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you can make people comfortable? It's just that honesty, that diving into scripture, that praying together. I'm assuming. I don't know. You haven't said this, but where does that start happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was a big question because I've been a part of groups. Yeah, small groups at church, mastermind types of groups, business groups. And I felt walking away. I've been in some of these for years and
Mhm.
realizing I don't know anybody. They really don't know me. Uh, what is the missing link here? I've been around some of these guys for a long time. They don't know anything about my personal life. They don't know really what's going on. They know maybe a little bit of a highlight here and a business thing here and what I've shared. So I was like, how do we really get beyond that in a quicker way, in a more intense way? And really that's why we kind of launched. Really one of the very first things I would recommend men to come to is we did an event. It's a 3-day intensive called the Men's Awakening. And we typically have it in the mountains. We typically only have one a year. We've had two so far. One was in the Rocky Mountains, one was in northern Georgia. And we typically are sleeping under one roof. So we rent out a really large log cabin in the mountains, 3-day intensive event. And the program's designed to intensify the relationship with God and each other in those 3 days. So typically the program is designed that you come out of there in with a deep relationship with God and other guys. And I think, that's the thing. Like there's one element of time, spending a lot of time with a man, with that relationship, that is one element to build depth and to build these deep relationships. But if you crank up the intensity, that's another element that you can build deep relationships. Think about maybe there's someone in your life in your past that there was some intensity of experience that you cranked up that built the bond between that person. So that's kind of what we do at these events. We crank up the intensity. Now we got the mask off. Now here we are. You know a lot of stuff about me. Now can we do relationships? That's kind of how we start, is we start with one of these 3-day intensives. Uh, and that's what I invite new members and new men into. And then from there, if we want, now we're doing the Iron Core group. So of just small 12 guys, and we're doing life together for a year, basically, is where it goes from there.
Right. So how do you initially convince, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but convince somebody that, hey, you need to kind of put your guard down a little bit because it's a lot of vulnerability, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of men, like you said, they have these things that they don't necessarily want to admit. I would say even women have those things. You have to, you're brought up in a certain way where you feel like you have to act a certain way, or you have to uphold yourself a certain way. The professionalism with your entrepreneurship or your business or whatever, and then the leadership that you have in families. So how does that, and how can you initiate that? Like, say, I know there are a lot of women who would love to have their husbands join or
Mm-hmm.
even start groups like this, but that would probably be a no-go because he doesn't want to hear her say that. He has to make a decision for himself. So how do you initiate something like this to where he says,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know what, I think I want to try this.
Yeah, yeah. Uh yeah, I mean it takes a risk. It's a risk to step into something. I think women are more apt to step in to something. They're just more relational. Like if you think about
Mm,
relational versus transactional, men are just more transactional. I mean, honestly, because they're in this business world, transaction after transaction, give me the deal. How's this going to benefit me? I'm not about relationships. Like I would rather go make money than to sit and build a relationship. That's just how men think, and it takes a little bit more effort to do that. But when men see it, when they're ready, uh, and in most of the men that have came, they didn't know what to expect. I mean, I didn't give them a lot of information. When you come to this, all I can tell them is, look, I would just say, just come as you are. And experience it. If it's not for you, then that's fine. And I think a lot of it maybe comes from the facilitator. Not putting any. I always start off with this, even at any group. I said this is not the Brett Snodgrass show. Like Brett Snodgrass is going to tell you anything that you don't already know. This
mm,
is not where you're going to come hear some content and walk away and not doing anything about it. I think we get a lot of that already. We don't need another piece of content, another message, another sermon, and then go home and it doesn't
right.
impact us in one way. We don't need any of that. What we do need is engagement of men that, a community of men that are going to be there for each other, not just in the valleys, but we are going to challenge each other. We are going to keep each other accountable. Don't you want to grow? Ask any man, do you want to grow? Do you want to be a better father? Do you want to be a better husband? Do you want to be a better business leader? Do you want to be a better man of God? They said, yeah. Do you want to grow? Yes. Okay, well, these groups are designed to help you grow. If you walk out of here after a year and you didn't get anything out of it, that's just not what we're going to do. We're going to consistently grow. So that's one piece. Take a risk, and then just back to the facilitator. I think I lead that way,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to ask them to do that I don't do. I think one of the other things is I think men, we're tired of just listening to someone speak at us that
Okay.
we think maybe have it together and they don't really share their stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I lead. I'm like, here's who I am. Here's what I got going on. And I think that breaks down their wall. It's like, whoa, I didn't know our leader facilitator is going to share that. Huh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And that's how I lead, and that's how I facilitate. I think that just kind of brings down the walls. And I think men, they just don't know. They just don't know what they don't know. I think they think that they don't need other guys.
Hmm.
But I think they're designed for that. And I mean, sometimes they wish that they didn't. They wish that they weren't designed for that. They wish they could just be a transactional man, yet they were designed for that. And we're just living out our design, I think, at the end of the day. So we can go against it or go with our God-given design. And that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I know women look at things and say, well, we were made for each other, but the men, like you said, or like we talked about, they're the superhero. They're the ones that have to hold all the pieces together. They're the ones that are looked to if something goes wrong or something goes right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's a lot of pressure. So one of the things that you mentioned was, as a facilitator, sharing your own stories. I love that, because in today's world of entrepreneurship, you talked about a lot of, or all the men, I guess, in your group are entrepreneurs. They're working men, businessmen. And the era of entrepreneurship online and everything, we hear that you have to be an authority.
Mm.
And so when you present yourself, you have to have it all together. And I know a lot of people struggle with this, men and women alike, this whole idea of whatever you show on social media, you clear out everything, all the noise, and you only show the perfect piece of it. And if you pan to the right or a little bit to the left, you'll see all the mess. And I've seen a meme on Facebook, I think, that showed that kind of thing, but it's honest and it's true and it's raw. And I like the fact that you said that you come and you don't have them just come as they are, but you come as you are. So it kind of tears down their defenses a little bit.
Yeah.
So
And,
go
and I
ahead.
think just, to piggyback on that, I heard this the other day, is just saying, men don't maybe want a facilitator. They do want a participant. And I think maybe I've even learned a little bit more of that I don't just want to facilitate. Yeah, I mean, I design, the program, a little bit of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But they just, I mean, men, I think, just want real. They don't want a fraud. They don't want any fakeness anymore. We get enough of that. Like, I think we're all tired of that. We don't want to compare each other to each other. Like, we come to these groups and we're like, oh man, he's got such a great business and I don't, or their
Mm-hmm.
family looks amazing and I'm struggling with my kids. Their marriage is amazing and we're roommates right now. And we don't want any of that. Like, we don't need any of that. And so, like, I have to constantly remind, because our flesh keeps going, oh, I'm comparing, they're better than me, I'm not enough, because the
Mm-hmm.
voices in our heads and the world's telling us all of these different things. And one of the things with these groups is just to constant remind each other of, who does he say that you are? And let's live it out together. Let's live on the mission together. And don't compare yourself. And we just, and humility is huge for our group. And I just talked about that this morning. And I was like, the greatest virtue is humility. Wouldn't it be an amazing world and group if, like, I could care about Christina's life more than my own? Like, what would that even look like? Because that's what Christ did. How can we even get closer to there? That's a win. And that's a huge growth spurt for us. Because most of the time in these groups, what can I get it? How can I benefit? And if I don't, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the things that we talk about, and we're way far from it, but that's the dream
You know,
to get closer to it.
I think that the funny thing is that God speaks to us, so He speaks to all of us in different ways. And the interesting thing I find when I find that He speaks to me is in these subtleties and these ideas, like you said, that if I could care about somebody else more than myself, well, you realize that when you go out and you do things. So, for instance, for this show, I started this show because I said I wanted to help people, and I had been through my own grief. But what happened is God used it as a tool, not only to get other people talking and people to be able to be vulnerable about themselves, but He also used it as a tool to heal my heart. So I
Mm,
can really relate to that piece of, hey, I'm standing here, but I'm not really the authority. God is the authority. He's
mhm,
just using me as a vessel, and that's what we should want.
mhm,
And we were watching uh, a sermon actually by Tim Tebow was speaking at a
mhm,
church, and he mentioned the fact that when we go through things, you become the person that has been on the rescue team.
Mm,
So you've been through your own situation, but then God uses that for you to help other people. And I often, think about that.
mhm.
It's a way to heal your heart, even because you can say, hey, we can't make any sense of what happened, but now I can be used as that vessel to help speak into other people and help them open up as well.
Mhm. For sure.
So can you give me, I guess, or give the audience a little bit of an idea of what the typical um, meeting might look like? I don't want you to tell all your secrets, but
Mhm.
maybe, something that they can say, hey, I want to create something like this because you told me before that yours is an in-person
Mhm.
meeting. And
Yeah.
I think that that's important as well because so many people are meeting online. We're meeting online right now,
Mhm.
but that we kind of have lost over the last several years this community and this bonding that we get when we are sitting side by side, um, which is wonderful. But you're, in Indiana and I'm in Florida. So,
Yeah.
if somebody is in Florida, how would they know what to even look for, or even if they wanted to start something?
Yeah. So number one, we need more. We need more of this. I mean, we're not in competition with each other. I mean, there's a lot of men's types of organizations out there. I'm not in competition. We're in it for a singular purpose, just to help and impact men's lives for the kingdom and women's lives for the kingdom. And so number one, we need it. We need more men stepping up. And I think we need just more ordinary, not, I wouldn't say like we're all extraordinary because made in his image, but we just need just regular guys coming together. We're not paid for this. We just maybe feel called to bring guys together. And maybe if you don't feel equipped, and that's awesome because I heck is sure don't feel equipped to lead. And when I read about men in the Bible, they didn't feel equipped.
Mm.
And it's through his strength and his courage that we can get up and lead. Um, Men aren't looking for again this another pastor, celebrity pastor to speak, and they just want a friend. They just want a brother to speak your experience. They want that intimacy. We do in-person events, I think, to build intimacy, to build brotherhood. You can do things in person that you can't do online. Could I put a hand on a shoulder? Could I hug a guy? Could I have dinner with a guy and break bread together like Christ did at other people's homes? Could
Wow.
I do those different things? Can we pray together? Can we worship together? Can we have a teaching and talk about it? Can we have small groups? Men, I think, are just tired, and I think we're all just tired of the barrier that this brings. We can do things together that we can't do. One of the funny things at our first event that I said, when was the last time you guys slept under the same roof with 30 other 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds? Never. Nobody ever has done that. They're like, I maybe did it in youth camp. So like we're just doing things that are different. But when you think about the times, the memories, the times you felt closer to Christ or closer to other people was probably when the intensity was cranked up
Mhm.
during something like that. Maybe it was a camp, maybe it was a missions trip, maybe it was a small intimate group, maybe it was a grief that you went through, a certain couple that you came into your home. What was that like? So that's kind of what we do at these groups, and that's why we do the in live person people events. Have I thought about online stuff? Absolutely. Have I thought about nationwide bringing people in? Yes, but it does make it more difficult. So now we've just landed. I feel in person is very necessary for our group. We do online, but what I told the guys today was like we only do it to bridge the gap to the live events. Maybe there's homework, maybe there's an assignment, because we also ask them to do stuff. A lot of times we listen to something, there was nothing expected of us. So, there's preparation, they have activities, there's things that they do to build growth in those three areas as well. So,
I love that. And as a mom as well, my wheels are turning. So I started thinking about my boys. I have two boys, and we have youth group and we have church, and there are certain communities that you bond, like you alluded to before, and certain communities that you don't necessarily bond to. You can attend every single day, and your just body is there. Your mind,
mhm,
your spirit is not there. And you're not really communicating and bonding with everyone in that space. So when you find your people, that makes a big difference. But as a mom, I'm thinking, I would love to figure out how to do this kind of thing for my boys as well. I mean, to me, it sounds kind of like the ladies, they get together and we do Bible studies
Mm-hmm.
and get together and we bond often as we can, because everybody is
Mm-hmm.
always busy. But
Mm-hmm.
my thing is that as also as a mom, I'm guessing this should be facilitated by the dads, right? Because as a mom, I mean, my boys look at me and they're like, "Oh, mom, like I can only go so far as a female." So, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think a man's and a dad's voice in a home is powerful, and if you think that it's not, then just look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. I'm part of a group called Dad Camp, and I had them on our podcast a while ago, and they talk about the statistics. I mean, look at the men in prison. Typically, maybe have a dad, missing dad, or negative types of dad story, a dad wound. Uh, the man's voice in the home is very powerful, whether you think it is or not. And that's just how it is. I think, statistics say that if the dad comes to Christ, you got a 75-80% chance of the family coming to Christ, when maybe the mom, there's just a less of a statistic. This isn't a gender thing. It's just the stats, right? I think it's just the truth. So I think dads need to step up, and they need to step up. They need to speak into their kids' lives. And I'm talking to myself too. I mean, I'm not the perfect in with this. I think the hardest mission field is in the home. I mean, I can spend an hour with a guy and pour into him and probably share some really cool wisdom. And when it comes to my own home, when it's there and they're seeing everything and all my flaws and the familiarity, it's difficult. It's more difficult. But again, words are powerful. I mean, there's certain words that I remember from my own father that, good or bad, I remember that impacted me, that I even still use today. And I just think I think that you're right. I think there's obviously a place for the woman's and the mother's voice to speak in. They are the comforter. They are the relator, the relational one. It comes very, very natural. Men, maybe it doesn't come as natural. So for the man to be intentional,
Mm-hmm.
it's just very, very powerful. Like many men in our group says, I don't remember my dad ever saying he loved me. I mean, that's pretty impactful. My dad never really hugged me, stuff like that. So I think we live in a little bit of a culture. Maybe that was a little bit of a culture thing too, but those are some different things that, as a man, as a dad, you're going to have impact, and there's just no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good one, or it's going to be a negative one. It's just your choice, but your impact, it's just inevitable. You're going to have it. So,
Is it safe to assume that when a man is in a place where he can bond in a Christian brotherhood of sorts, where he has other men to go through life with and deepen the relationship that he is seeking with God, that, like you said, he has that impact and he is the head over his home. It makes him a stronger leader, a stronger father, a stronger husband, because there's, as much as a woman and as much, as a wife, as much as we would love it, I understand that there are things that our husbands need to work out with other men as opposed to us. I mean, I can give him the same advice or even words as you could,
mhm. Yeah.
maybe too many words. So, but as a wife of a Christian man, I'm assuming that if he had these other men that he was bonding with, that would strengthen. And I'm not just talking about me; I'm talking about anybody in general.
Mhm.
His ability to work inside the home, work inside his own business, and that's the results that you're seeing, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. And most of the men that I am surrounded with use work as an escape.
Mm.
I've used work as an escape. well, it's nice to be powerful. It's nice to get recognized. It's nice to be a leader. It's nice to everyone look to you for answers to make decisions. It's very nice to be respected when no one says anything negative to you because you're going to fire them. Like, so,
Mhm.
um, and then you go home and it's tough and it's hard and maybe you're not respected and your wife wants you to do all these things and then your kids expect these things. And you're like, don't you know that I'm providing for the family and I got to lead my family. I got to lead my employees and they got food, their mouths to feed and all. I can't handle it. And, so yes, so that's part of the group, but when you can be strong and go and lead, then you can just be empowered with some of these things and realize, man, I'm not alone. Number one, like that said, in and of itself, I'm not alone. Um, that's really awesome. And I probably pick the business world, the entrepreneurial world, because we go through things that maybe some of the other guys might not go through. I've been a part of small groups, church small groups. Awesome. Those are great. I've been a part of business groups. Great. I can talk about business things over here that I can't talk about over here. I can talk about faith things over here I can't talk about over here. So it's just
Mhm.
nice to pull them together. Like some men wouldn't maybe understand, like, man, we just did a deal. We did 100K or whatever, like let's, that's just maybe some of these other groups might not understand. So some of those conversations are just a little bit different. Another word that just kind of came to me is integration this year. So we're actually doing events now where men wanted to bring their wife. They said,
I
"Hey,
love
man, I've
that.
been to the men's awakening. I've loved what I've seen. I've grown so much, but then I come home and I'm like, man, I'm on fire. My wife is still in the home. She didn't experience some of that. So they're like, man, I would love to just bring my wife to something. So we're doing something in June called the Soulmate retreat. We do Guatemala missions trips to bring their teenage kids. So again, doing things to integrate to not only crank up the intensity with the men, but also their families. And it's all about relationship because if I can build a relationship with a man, great. But what if I can build a relationship with their family?
Hmm.
Now you're talking about life. You're
Yes.
talking about real relationship. Like,
Hmm.
so that's what we're intentional about in our group.
I love that. Yeah, I believe that the revival starts at home, inside your walls. And if you don't have all the pieces and the strength in every person, especially the lead of the family, then it can be quite difficult when you're going out and about in business or friendships or other things that you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, Last question before I have you share about yourself and where people can find you. How can a wife encourage her husband in this manner? Other than the fact that she shouldn't be selfish and monopolize his time, that kind of thing. Or do you have any advice for the women out there who say this? Wow, this sounds like something that's wonderful.
Mm. I would just say just that place of encouragement. I don't know about other men, but I can have just a guilt complex if I were to go and try to do something without my family. I feel like, oh, I'm leaving them here and I need to be here. Maybe my wife can't handle the kids without me, or like I'm gone all the time anyways, and I'm at work and then I only see my kids for a little bit, but they just don't know that maybe they need this because maybe this can give them fuel to move forward for the next
Mhm.
while, right? I mean, that's the thing. It keeps pushing us forward, sharpened. We need to go get sharpened. We need to retreat. We need to do what Christ did. I mean, Jesus could have came in. He could have did life alone. He could have did everything. He could have still did the miracles. He didn't need to roll around with some other guys. And really, we just try to say, hey, what did he do? Let's try to model that. And so I would just say just that place of encouragement, not maybe a nagging place, not just saying, hey, you need some friends or you need some other guys because you're driving us, but just do something, what do you want to do for you to help you grow? Do you want to grow? and just some of that encouragement. We'll be okay. Because I think deep down, a lot of guys feel maybe that guilt complex, like I can't leave
Mhm.
to do something maybe for myself. And this is a very this is a powerful thing. Now, if it was, golf trip buddies, whatever that looked like, that's fun too. But I would just say, just have that encouragement, just to support them. I got this, maybe back home. But that's probably one of the things
Okay.
that I would suggest.
Okay. That sounds lovely. Uh, and Brett, we'd love to know how people can get in touch with you, also how they can get your book. I'm interested in that, and I'm sure our audience members are as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the show, Christine. I really appreciate it. So Iron Deep, DEEP.com is our website. It does have our events on there, it has our podcast on there. So if you want to listen to maybe a podcast, check that out. There is an application if you do want to come to a men's awakening that I've already described. I know that's a risk, but well worth it. 25, 30 other guys are going to be there, and for a singular purpose. And love to have the book, The Secret War Within, the website, Amazon.com. It is a book that is raw, gritty, probably PG-13. So at least, be older before you read it. It's not your normal Christian bookshelf book. It does talk about the secrets that men have within. So check that out, The Secret War Within, and appreciate you for having me on the show.
I'm so excited to have you. And just for clarification, if they apply for the men's awakening retreat, they do not have to be in state. It can be anywhere. Or is that?
Yeah, no, it could be
Okay.
in state. So our men's awakening, it's in September, and it's in northern Georgia. So that's where we're going to be
Very
having it.
nice.
It's in the Blue Mount or the mountains there, and
Yeah.
really off the beaten path. So it's a beautiful place.
Sounds great. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Brett. I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you and learning more about your ministry. And so I hope that we have plenty of people reaching out to you as well. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Christina.
And for the rest of you, continue to be blessed and bless others. And we'll see you next time. And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.